This is NBC Nightly News, Monday, June 18th, reported by John Chancellor.
Good evening. Two important stories tonight. The summit talks with the Russians began at the White House, and because of the summit, the Senate Watergate Committee has postponed its public hearings for 1 week. We'll have details on both of those stories. We'll see the giant rescue effort mounted today in the Florida Keys to save 4 men trapped in a small submarine. And we'll have another special report on the gasoline shortage. The second Soviet-American summit meeting in a little over a year got underway in Washington today at the White House, where President Nixon welcomed Soviet Party Chief Leonid Brezhnev. Here's a report on that ceremony from our White House correspondent, Richard Valeriani.
A slight drizzle stopped shortly before Brezhnev reached the White House, but his arrival from Camp David by helicopter was delayed because of the rainy weather. The President and Mrs. Nixon were waiting on the South Lawn as a presidential limousine brought Brezhnev from the helipad, heralded by Army trumpeters. The two men shook hands heartily, like two old friends who haven't seen each other for a while. Cannons boomed a 21-gun salute, a tribute to Brezhnev's status as the principal leader of the Soviet Union, even though he is not officially the head of the government. The two men then trooped the line. At one point, Brezhnev plunged into the crowd, acting like an American politician out campaigning. And in a way, he was campaigning to make the Soviet Union and its policies more acceptable to the United States and to its people, especially its elected representatives in Congress. In his welcoming remarks, the President looked back to the Moscow summit, and he looked ahead to some progress on limiting offensive nuclear weapons at this summit.
This year, at the summit in Washington, we will not only build on the foundation that we laid last year, but that we have the opportunity to make even greater progress than we made last year toward the goals that we share in common. And above all, the goal that goes beyond our two countries, but to the whole world. The goal of lifting the burden of armaments from the world and building a structure of peace.
Но в политике действуют свои понятия относительности.
Brezhnev's reply used language strikingly similar to Mr. Nixon's. He said the Moscow summit last year had laid a good, reliable foundation for relations of peace between the two countries. And he said he and his delegation were prepared to work hard to ensure that the summit talks here serve the interests of a peaceful future for all mankind.
Those good words, we can move forward.
Yes, sir. The two leaders then moved forward to almost 4 hours of private talks, continuing right through a scheduled lunch break. Spokesman said afterward they reviewed the world situation in general terms on a philosophical plane without getting into specifics. The Russians said it was a good business-like beginning. Mr. Nixon was quoted as saying the talks were very good, very relaxed. One tangible result was approval of 3 and perhaps 4 new American-Soviet agreements to be signed tomorrow. Richard Valeriani, NBC News, Washington.